Hello, this is Pete or Kenshin1913, and this is another Getting to Know Kenshin1913. This is a series where you're going to learn a little bit about me, other than I like playing video games, since I am a Let's Player. And this episode is going to be about graphic novels. That's right, graphic novels or comic books, depending on how you I don't know, you use whatever term. Anyways, I like comic book. Well, I like comic books. I used to collect them as a child. And me and my brother, we used to collect a lot of comic books. The first couple comic books we ever got were probably X-Men comic books and stuff because we used to watch the X-Men cartoon show in the 90s, and we really enjoyed the X-Men comics. And then we really liked the X-Men. Now, as you can see, I'm wearing a Batman t-shirt. Batman is my favorite comic book character. But I actually didn't follow him that much as a child growing up, although he was my favorite. Just because I don't know. I don't really know why, but we used to have a comic book store in what is it? In our neighborhood that we used to go to and look at comic books, and we would mostly we went there because we collected football cards as well, and when we went to talk to the guy about getting football cards and stuff. But we would look around and we would check out stuff. We also had some Spider-Man comics, but we were really big into collecting X-Men comics. And basically, there was one time, all right, we had, I think I probably told this story on my Let's Playing channels, but I'm gonna tell it anyways. Basically, it was back in the 90s when we were collecting comic books. Now, if you know anything about the X-Men, you know that Jean Grey is the Phoenix, or I think it's just Jean Grey. And then there's Scott Summers, who's Cyclops, and they have like a little romantic relationship. Well, they eventually ended up getting married in one of the comic books, and we ended up collecting them. We ended up collecting this comic book. Now, one day we were watching, I think it was like a home shopping network kind of thing, where they were talking, and it was a comic book collectors section, and basically they were talking about what is it? They were talking about this one particular comic, and me and my brother were like, I think we have that one. They were talking about how this comic book was so rare because on the bottom, there on the last panel on the bottom right hand side of the page, Gene, will you be my wife, or and they say I do, but there was no I do in the bubble. That's right, the bubble was empty. Right now, with that, they were saying that this comic book was worth quite a bit because the printer or whatever happened didn't print the the I do or whatever. So we were like, oh my god, I think we have that comic. So we went to go look, and back then we did not take care of because we were children. We didn't really take care of stuff. So basically, what ended up happening was we found this comic book, and we're like, oh my god, we have this one. We looked to the page where they said the I do's, and we were missing the speech bubble too. There was no words in it. And we're like, oh my god, we could have so much money. And the thing was, our comic book was ruined. I think it was missing a cover. It was just in pretty bad shape. And they said on the channel that if you had it like a mint condition, it was worth like thousands of dollars. And and that's actually the story of how we started really taking care of things. Like, well, that was like the lesson where we're like, you know what? If we took care of our stuff, we could I guess monetize it in a way. I mean, that's something that we do. You save it so that you can sell it later. I don't know. Actually, that's a question that I have for people who collect toys. What do you do with them if you don't play with them? Now, I know I have a lot of action figures that I have, but I don't play with them either. But I eventually want to sell them. That's why I keep them. So just to get back on comic books, okay? As we grew older and comic books started changing a bit to adapt more to just children and to teenagers and middle-aged people, they came up with this new term called graphic novel. And basically, they would still be comic books, but they would be in bigger form. They would put a bunch of comic books together and then call it a graphic novel. They kind of did that so that they could be like, oh, it's still kind of books, but there's pictures and stuff like that. So let me show you some of my favorite graphic novels. Um, my all-time favorite is obviously The Watchmen. I friggin' love this comic or graphic novel, whichever you want to call it. Basically, it's about a group of superheroes. I don't really want to give it away. It's about a group of superheroes, and it takes place in an 1980s like alternative universe, and like what if superhero people were real, and how kind of psycho they would actually be. This is a great book by Alan Moore and David Gibbons. Great book. The next one is another Alan Moore, because actually I've noticed that I'm a pretty big fan of him. Well, not pretty big, but I enjoy his work. The next one's V for Vendetta. I actually, a couple of stories about these graphic novels is I actually saw the movies first and was very interested. Well, actually, with Watchmen, I used to read this all the time, and then I saw the movie and it was really good. But with V for Vendetta, I actually saw the movie first, and then I was like, I want to read the book, and so we ended up purchasing it, and it's very good. It's not like the movie, 100%, but the movie definitely follows it pretty well. But they changed some things, and every 5th of November, I end up watching V for Vendetta. Occasionally, I will reread it, but I haven't gotten around to rereading it lately. Another one that I like to read from the Batman is Batman the Killing Joke. This one is one that became more popular after, basically after the uh, the Batman movie that came out with Christian Bale and the Joker, because it was about the origins of the Joker, and that one had the Joker in it. And so this one is actually, the Killing Joke is actually about the origins of the Joker and like who he was and all that stuff. And it was pretty good. And actually, Tim Burton, if you remember the first Batman movie where Jack Nicholson was the Joker, he kind of took some of the stuff from that graphic novel there. So that one's pretty old. That one also is another Alan Moore. It seems like we got quite a bit of those. And then the next one here, yeah, this looks like a real big novel. This one is called From Hell. All right, this one is based on semi-true things about Jack the Ripper. It's a book about it's like a murder mystery book about Jack the Ripper and all the events surrounding it, and who is Jack the Ripper, and just various. It's just like a cop investigation of it, and it's really good. Again, this is also by Alan Moore. Alan Moore makes some really good graphic novels, and this book was also made into a movie, also by the same name, with Johnny Depp in it. It wasn't. It was pretty good, but it wasn't as good as the book. I mean, obviously, as you can see, this is a huge book, and they just couldn't get into all the details like they could in the graphic novel. And actually, Alan Moore is pretty crazy, where he doesn't really like what is it? He doesn't really like people making movies out of his graphic novels, because he just thinks like that's why he made them. It's for that medium. It's not to be made into another medium. And then finally, I'm just gonna show off something from Marvel. Origin, which is basically origin of Wolverine, one of the most well-known X-Men in the X-Men universe. And basically, this tells the origins of how Wolverine came about. They were thinking about doing it for quite some time. They finally ended up doing it. I mean, this one's almost like almost 10 years old and stuff. It's a great book. If you get the chance to read it, it's a great book. And you know what the great thing about reading graphic novels is that you don't look like you're a comic book nerd reading them, because you're like, oh, I'm reading a graphic novel. It's not all comic book superhero and all that other stuff. You know what I mean? Even though I guess it kind of is. But what else? Just basic. And then I collected. Me and my brother used to collect the Ultimate X-Men way back in the day, Ultimate Spider-Man, and then because those were just kind of like reboots of series, the Spider-Man and X-Men series, because they were trying to get it to a new generation of people, so they rebooted it and kind of put it, because the old comic books always felt very dated, like even in the 90s, it felt very dated, where everything felt like it was in the 70s and it was just kind of old and stuff. So what they decided to do was kind of like update it and reboot it and bring it into a new generation, which actually worked quite well because they are selling again comic books, and that's pretty cool. And now there's all other kinds of comic books. I mean, they've been around forever, like Archie and stuff like that. And some occasionally I do go to comic book conventions and check out stuff, but usually I don't really buy anything. But I used to be into comic books quite a bit, and I still read graphic novels if I find one when I go to the bookstore or whatever. I'll pick it up. I like the Hulk. I like there's one my friend Rob has been requesting, like he's saying I should read, is the House of M. There's like the Civil War one. There's even though these are all comic books, and then they put them all into a big thing, a big collection, then call them comic books. And then there was a couple of other ones I forget, but yeah, I like graphic novels. Occasionally I read them, and you know they're just fun. And you know what? I want to know what your favorite graphic novel is. And if you don't have a favorite graphic novel or comic book, who's your favorite comic book superhero or supervillain? Mine is the Joker. It's Batman and Joker, easily. Anyway, so this has been Kenshin1913. I hope you learned something new about me. Maybe, we can have a discussion about comic book heroes or graphic novels that you enjoy or whatever. You can recommend some to me. I can recommend some to you. Whatever you want to do. That's what this video is for discussion. So, yeah, this has been Pete or Kenshin1913. I want to thank you for watching. And I hope you guys have a happy Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving is right around the corner. So this has been Kenshin1913. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.